The Tennessee Titans finished the 2025 season 3-14 and in last place in the AFC South. However, there is hope on the way. So in today's video, I want to give you guys a mock-off season for the Tennessee Titans. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So the way this mock-off season is going to work is we are going to begin by talking about what happened in 2025 for the Titans. We'll then talk about some head coach candidates. We'll talk about their salary cap. We'll do a free agency plan. And ultimately, we will do a 3-round mock draft to end the video. With that said, let's talk about 2025 for the Tennessee Titans because, let's be honest, it wasn't very good, but there was some things that might give you some optimism. When you look at the year they had, obviously, again, not an ideal way to end, but I think there's a lot of promising things that happened towards the back half of the season. This game versus Houston, 16-13 game, 30-24 versus Seattle. You beat the Cleveland Browns. You beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You put up a fight against San Francisco. You put up a fight against New Orleans. We won't talk about Jacksonville. Cam Ward didn't play. But I think that's the biggest reason why you're feeling excited about this team, of course, is Cam Ward. When you look at the productive season that Cam Ward have, especially given the circumstances he was in, you got to feel really optimistic about what his future is with this team and just his future in general. Again, you look at the numbers here, over 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 159 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. While those numbers aren't going to necessarily blow you away by any means, when you add in the context that this Titans team is just like very void of talent. They don't have a wide receiver one. Their defense is not very good. The offensive line was not great this year. The run game was okay at times, but a little bit inconsistent. And your head coach got fired early in the season. It's just not a formula for success for a young quarterback. But despite all of those issues, I feel like Cam Ward just got better and better and better and better as the year progressed. So for Titans fans, you got to feel good about your quarterback. Now, with all that said, that's kind of a bit of a recap as of 2025. Really, the big story was Cam Ward. So now let's go to talk about some of their head coach candidates. Right now, as it appears, it does sound like Matt Nagy is one of the favorites to get the job. And by the way, I'm not a big fan of this. I'm hopeful that this is not who they're going to hire and they're just kind of trying to give him an opportunity to blow them away, and maybe they want to elevate him because I believe there's some sort of maybe connections there. I'm not sure. I know that with I think the GM or owner, one of the two, they have a connection with Nagy. I hope they don't hire Nagy because I just don't think he's a good head coach. And let's be honest, whenever he's calling plays, the offense typically does worse, which is not a good thing. So I hope they don't go with Matt Nagy. If they don't go with Matt Nagy, I think there's a number of wonderful candidates out there. I listed off 2 guys, but I'll list up a few more who I think could also be solid names too. I love the idea of Vance Joseph, obviously defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. I think his system in Tennessee could be great for that defense, bringing in some more talent, building a defensive identity. So I like the idea of Vance Joseph. If you want to stick on the offense, I think Kevin Stefanski offers something unique there. He'd finally have his young quarterback. He could establish a fun, unique run game. And I think the play action game with Cam Ward, the RPO game, could be pretty sweet. Obviously, Harbaugh is going to be brought up. I'm not the biggest fan of him in Tennessee. I like the idea of Jesse Minter, but it sounds like he's probably heading towards Baltimore. I don't hate the idea of Mike McCarthy either. I think there's a number of awesome candidates out there. I'm not going to pick one in this video. I'm kind of predicting them to go with Matt Nagy, which would be unfortunate, but I think an ideal hire would be either Kevin Stefanski or Vance Joseph. So that's the conversation about the head coaching candidates. I think there's a lot of pros and cons to each of those names, but ultimately, if it is Matt Nagy, we'll have to wait and see. Now, in terms of some team needs for this roster, look, I'm going to give you guys the big needs, but admittedly speaking, they have a need all over the roster. This is not a roster that has a handful of like set in stone guys outside of like Cam Ward, DK, Omenihu, maybe a couple of those defensive pieces, Devondre, Jeffrey Simmons, Cedric Gray. And yeah, those are kind of the pieces here. So as of right now, I have a handful of positions listed off. I think the biggest of needs, if you want to support your young quarterback, you need a wide receiver one. I think that Omenihu, Shamir DK, maybe Xavier Restrepo obviously had the connection with Cam Ward. I'm not sure if he really is a big part of your long-term plans, but he's also there. I like some of the younger names you have. I think they need a wide receiver one, though, like a true alpha number 1 guy that they were hoping that Calvin Ridley could become, but obviously Calvin Ridley hasn't been really that, not this year, nor really ever in his career. So wide receiver one's a big need. I also wrote edge rusher as well. You do have guys like Arden Key, Jahad Ward. Some of those guys are free agents. Some of those guys are getting up there with age. I know you also drafted Oluwafemi Aladejo. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But he is sort of a developmental 2 to 3 year project that they drafted in round 2, expecting him to take some time. So I don't want to have to rely on him next year, at least not fully. You're going to give him a ton of reps and a lot of opportunities, but he's got to show that he can actually play. He's got to show that he can stay healthy for a full season and put it all together. So edge rusher is a big need. I think corner, also a massive need for this team. The L'Jarius Sneed experiment has been a complete catastrophe. You have some younger guys here that I think have some talent, but I think you need to elevate that room as best you can in the future. I also wrote offensive line. I think right now, obviously, Peter Skoronski, you're feeling okay with. Dan Moore, you just paid him a ton, so you're going to have to make that work. Lloyd Cushenberry, I think you're fine at center. Really, it's the right side of that offensive line. JC Latham has not really worked out as a right tackle. I wonder if maybe you have to kick him inside to play guard. That might be where he's best suited. So you're going to need to probably fill one of either a right tackle or a right guard, depending on what they do with JC Latham. And I also wrote linebacker. I think Cedric Gray is awesome. He's a great player, but you're going to need more pieces around him. Admittedly speaking, linebacker is not like their biggest of needs, but I think you would like to have a bit more talent in that room opposite of Cedric Gray. And of course, you could just use usual depth, some other pieces here and there, but those are some of the bigger needs. Now, with that said, let's go and talk about their salary cap situation. Obviously, because this team has a young quarterback and not a lot of awesome, talented pieces, you're looking at a team that has $96.5 million in 2026. However, we can grow that number a lot more by cutting 2 players post June 1st. Guys that are kind of on the chopping block and are expected to be cut any day now. I put them for post June 1st just simply because there's less dead cap that you'd be eating, or dead money, I should say. But you might have to cut them pre-June 1st. Those guys being Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed. You cut them post-June 1st. Calvin Ridley gives you 18.5. L'Jarius Sneed gives you 15.5. You eat a little bit of dead money, but you're generally speaking okay with that number. After those 2 moves, you're up to $130.5 million. That is plenty of money to go out there and be aggressive in free agency to try and surround Cam Ward with a lot more talents. Now, before we get into the free agency portion of the video, we do have to re-sign a handful of guys, a handful of depth options, quality pieces, etc., etc. So really quickly, I'm just going to go ahead and list it off to you guys. I won't go into too much detail on a couple of these guys, but for some I will. Arden Key, 2 years, $24 million. Chig Okonkwo, 3 years, $30 million. Sebastian Joseph Day, 2 years, $8 million. Morgan Cox, James Lynch, Corey Levin, Johnny Hecker, and then we're going to match Jarek Reed and Darrell Baker, who are both restricted free agents. The big 2, I guess the big 3 names here, Arden Key, he's one of your better pass rushers. This is a team that just doesn't have a ton of pass rush productivity, so you want to make sure you keep a vet around, and maybe we'll draft one to play opposite of him. Chig Okonkwo, you don't have to necessarily bring him back because I like the idea of Gunnar Helm being here. However, if you want to run that 2 tight end sets, your 12 personnel, your 13 sets, you're going to need multiple tight ends. I think Chig Okonkwo had a great year. He's one of the more safety blanket options for Cam Ward. I want to give Cam Ward as many options to work with, and it's a 3-year deal, so it kind of works out to where when his deal expires, Cam Ward will be up for a big-time contract. So bringing back Chig Okonkwo makes some sense. And then Sebastian Joseph Day, a lot of people like this guy. I love him. He's one of the better interior 3-4 edge rushers, defensive pieces. I mean, he's just a weapon you could be used all across the defensive line. Good pass rusher, good run stuffer. You want to keep him around because he's quality depth, right? 2 years, $8 million. He might get a little bit more, so if we match that, that's fine. I did leave over a decent bit of cap at the end of this video, so if the contracts are not 100% accurate, we'll have money over just in case. So those are all the names we're going to re-sign. After those moves, we still have $99 million in cap space. So we have plenty of money to be, again, very aggressive in free agency. So with that said, let us start off with my free agency plan. We got some big name guys. We got some lower tier guys that I think can fill in certain roles. One thing I do want to emphasize is that this Tennessee Titans team wants to go big game fishing, but we also have to be aware and cognizant of the idea that some of these guys are probably going to want to look for other opportunities in a more win now situation. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I went with guys who I think are awesome football players though. Let's start off with Alec Pierce, the wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. We are going to give Alec Pierce a 4-year, $100 million deal. It's $25 million annually. This is his PFF grade, 79.3 overall grade, 81.0 receiving grade, 1,003 yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. This is another one of these big play threats. I know that you already have Alec Maynard. That was kind of one of the pause I did have with this one, but it's not the best of receiving classes out there. I know there is a George Pickens out there. I think Dallas ultimately brings him back. And between Romeo Doubs and Alec Pierce, I just think Alec Pierce is a better, more consistent player. So that's why I kind of went with Alec Pierce. I think he'd be an awesome fit. He has so many things good out there, both receiving, blocking, being used in the screen game, etc., etc. I think he'd be perfect with Cam Ward. 25 mil is a lot, but again, by the time that Cam Ward's contract is up, you can get off this contract if it did not work out for you. Then after we bring in Alec Pierce, we're going to bring in an offensive lineman. We're going to bring in Elijah Vera Tucker on a 4-year, $60 million deal. This is his 2024 stats. Now, the one concern with Elijah Vera Tucker is the injuries, but he usually comes back very good even after the injuries. He's had multiple big-time injuries, and he's been 100% fine the next season. This is 2024 stats, a 77.7 overall grade, 74.5 pass blocking grade, 76.3 run blocking grade. 4 sacks allowed, but let's also add the context that the Jets quarterback room has been a catastrophe for multiple years, so they hold on to the ball too long. They put themselves in harm's way. That's that. As long as Elijah can stay healthy, you got yourself a bookend right guard. And again, we'll figure out what to do with JC Latham, whether that is to kick him inside to play guard or just say, you know what, you're just not going to be on this team next year. Next up, we're going to sign Odafe Oweh to a 3-year, $51 million deal. Now, to any Chargers fans who might be watching, I'm pretty confident the Chargers are going to re-sign Odafe because he's been awesome this year. But via PFF, 73.7 overall grade, 62.5 run defense grade, 78.0 pass rush grade, 8 sacks on the season, 20 solo tackles. If you go back to last year as well, you can see the numbers here: 10 sacks, 26 solos, a forced fumble, 73.0 pass rushing grade, 66.7 run defense grade. This is another one of those vets that you can place next to Arden Key. When Arden Key moves on, Odafe Oweh steps up his game. We're also probably going to draft an edge rusher somewhere in the first 3 rounds, so adding that extra bit of talent. And again, we don't know who the head coach or defensive coordinator is going to be for this team, so we'll have to wait and see what system and schemes they run. I think Odafe Oweh, though, is kind of a scheme versatile player that can play in multiple different fronts, and he would be great next to, you know, Aladejo if he develops and whoever we might draft in the future. Then after that, we're going to bring in Caden Ellis, the linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons, on a 2-year, $20 million deal. So Caden Ellis might just end up returning to the Atlanta Falcons, but you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun here. This guy's a bit of a weapon, right? You can use him as an off-ball linebacker. You can use him as a blitzer. You can even put him a little bit off the edge. He's kind of good at anything you want for him. And that's kind of why I liked his fit here with this team. Obviously, you have Cedric Gray, but I want to place just a weapon next to him, and that's what Caden Ellis has turned into. This is his stats from this year: 68.1 overall grade, 84.6 pass rush grade, 56.9 run defense grade, 61.8 coverage grade, 4 sacks this year, 79 solo tackles, and a forced fumble. If you go back to 2024, you can see the run defense grade was a little bit better last year. 71.1 overall grade, 81.4 pass rush grade, and a 70.3 run defense grade. 5 sacks that year, 108 solo tackles. And in case you're interested, this is his 2023 stats. An absolute weapon. You can use him to get after the quarterback. You can use him as an off-ball linebacker. He is a little bit older, but this contract's only for a 2-year deal. So by the time that his contract's over with, he'll be 32. You're probably going to let him walk and go elsewhere. Now, outside of that, I did bring in 2 more guys that can fill in roles. I'm not going to guarantee them starting jobs, but what I will say is if they can improve, if they can show they are worthwhile, then we'll keep them around. Andrew Wiley on a 1-year, $4 million deal. More than likely, he won't start for you, but if JC Latham doesn't develop as a right tackle, he could be your stopgap right tackle. We also might draft one this offseason as well. And worst case scenario, he becomes your swing tackle, who you feel really good about on either side. And we're going to bring in Amik Robertson on a 2-year, $10 million deal. Usually been really solid for the Detroit Lions, but this year had a bit of a down year. I could see Detroit trying to get off that contract. He's still fairly young, and this is a really affordable contract for a guy that has shown he can play all across the defense. We're going to place him in the nickel, which is where he usually is. And I think he could, go and compete for that job against guys like Kevin Winston, Keeman Hall, whoever else might be competing out there. He's not a vet necessarily, but he's old enough to where he can kind of be a veteran in that room. He's been there. He's done that. He's competed at the highest level. So, yeah, give me Amik Robertson. So to recap, we brought in Alec Pierce, Elijah Vera Tucker, Odafe Oweh, Caden Ellis, Andrew Wiley, and Amik Robertson. After all those moves, we have $23 million left over. That $23 million will go towards depth options, will go towards the draft. And if I'm off on a contract, then we have a little bit of some wiggle room there to, beef up the contract if I may have undershot somebody. But with that said, let us go ahead and hop into a mock draft. And again, I want to reiterate some of the team needs we still have on the board here. We could still use another edge rusher. I think offensive line is still totally in play. We probably need a corner. I think we maybe could use some depth in the secondary in general. And if we can find a wide receiver, I wouldn't necessarily not take it. But with that said, as you can see, we're on the PFF mock draft simulator, 3 rounds with the Tennessee Titans. They're going to have pick 4, 35, and 66. Let us start here. All right, Fernando Mendoza goes 1, Caleb Downs goes 2, and Dante Moore, we'll see if he ends up going out, goes number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. A couple ways we could go here. Number 1, Arvell Reese is really tempting. He sort of transitioned from an off-ball linebacker, which you can see 286 snaps as a linebacker, but 327 as an edge rusher. I think that the Ohio State Buckeyes sort of realized, yeah, he's a good linebacker, but he's so much better when he's close to the line of scrimmage. He is a freaky athlete with great bend. He already has a couple of pass rush moves that look really sharp. My only concern with Arvell is that you can kind of make a bit of a comp to Oladejo. Obviously, Arvell was a much better prospect than him, but you can sort of make the comparison of like converted linebacker, switched over to edge rushers, a little bit raw with their technique. I think Arvell is a lot further along, though, than the UCLA product. If you want more of a surefire edge, I like Ruben Bain quite a bit. I know there's some questions about his arm length, but man, he is just an absolute baller. David Bailey, he gives you so much juice off the edge, especially if you were to, stick with that 3-4, having this guy be in a 2-point stance, letting him run off the edge. I think that could be nice. A number of ways we could go here. We could even look at a receiver and, a receiving core of Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson with Alec Pierce and Alec Ayomaner and Shamir Dike. I think that would be awesome. So a couple ways we can go here. I'm honestly right now, I'm kind of leaning receiver. By the way, I know that some people might say corner here. It's just a little bit too early at number 4 to take Jermod or Mansour. We can wait till pick 35 or 66 and look at a Keith Abney, a Chris Johnson, a Cisse, a Colton Hood, and feel pretty good about those options. So we'll pass on corner for now. All right, I'm going to just kind of lay it out to you guys. It's either between Reese, David Bailey, or one of these 2 receivers. And I think when it comes down to it, I am ultimately going to go with Jordan Tyson, I think, here, because the biggest objective for the Tennessee Titans should be to surround Cam Ward with as much talent as possible. You have Alec Ayomaner, who can be sort of a contested catch guy. You can do a lot of things down the field, but he also improved all across the field. You can use him a bit underneath as well. Tyson's kind of your intermediate guy. He is, I don't want to compare him to JSN, but he's kind of sort of like that play style. You can use him in the RPO. You can use him in the intermediate. I like Tate a lot, but Tate kind of does what Alec Pierce already kind of does. I feel like there's a little bit too much redundant traits. Jordan Tyson's a little bit of a different prospect. Now, the only issue with him is that he has missed some time because of injuries, but if the medicals pan out and they don't look bad, let's take Jordan Tyson here at number 4 to the Tennessee Titans. All right, 35, we're up here, and we talked about corner. Our Mason Thomas is here, by the way. He's a very intriguing prospect off the edge. Really quickly, I would like to look up the edge board. I think Akeem Mesidor is off the board either this round or next round. He's also just an older player. He's like 20. He's going to be 25 on draft night. I don't think the Titans are really looking for a win now guy necessarily. I think they could wait on that. I think let's go corner here. Let's take an outside corner. I think Keith Abney is a total stud. I think his cover skills. He's got some, general speed issues. Can he turn his hips fast enough? We'll see that at the Combine and Senior Bowl. Actually, I don't know if he's going to be at the Senior Bowl. I'll have to look into that. Chris Johnson's my guy. I think he's a total stud. Complete playmaker at San Diego State. I think he is a first round-ish talent, but I think the Titans might lean towards a Keith Abney. Let's go Keith Abney here, man. Really good player. Let's go Keith Abney. All right, up at 66. So far, we have Jordan Tyson and Keith Abney. Actually, 2 Arizona State guys. Did not even mean to do that. Let's see if there's another Arizona State guy. Let's look. All right, couldn't find anybody. Austin Saravold is here. Now, he's played left tackle. He's never really played right tackle before. And, he did play guard. I think he's much better as a guard. We already have 2 guards, Elijah Vera Tucker and Peter Skoronski. Now, we do need depth in that position, but I don't think you're spending a 3rd round pick on a guy who's just going to be a depth option. Wait till rounds 4 and 5 and, draft like a DJ Campbell, a Max Sinacor, somebody like that. We'll pass on Saravold here. Let's look at the, who do we draft? I forgot. Okay, we got the corner receiver. Let's go and look at an edge rusher here. Again, I think Akeem Mesidor is already off the clock here. So I'm not going to take Mesidor. PFF has him a little bit lower. I've seen mock drafts where he's like an early day 2, sometimes even day 1 pick. He is an older prospect. That is kind of a bit of a concern, but I'm not going to take Akeem Mesidor here just because it would just not be realistic. There's Anthony Lucas. I'm not the biggest of Anthony Lucas fans. I think Derek Moore has a bit of some juice off the edge that I think I'm kind of leaning towards right now. He's a little bit older of a prospect, but you can see the level of productivity this year. 11 sacks, 19.8 pass rush win rate. solid enough against the run. I think he could be a bit of a fit here with this team. Really quickly, before we do take Derek Moore, I want to quickly just sort of scan the board and see if maybe there's just a player who's so obviously the pick here. I'm not really seeing anybody within a position of need. I love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but I just don't know if he's necessarily what we need at this point. So yeah, let's go with Derek Moore here. Let's take Derek Moore, the pass rusher out of Michigan. So there we go. We got Jordan Tyson, Keith Abney, and Derek Moore. But guys, let me know in the comment section below, Titans fans in general, do you like what I did with the Tennessee Titans? Do you think we're a better team now than we were before? I think the answer is pretty clearly yes, but it wasn't hard to get there. But if you guys did not like what I did, let me know in the comment section below. If you agree, let's hear it in the comment section below. Love the positivity. Hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.